Hey, there you are. I was afraid you passed out on a bench or something and missed the flight back to HQ. You know, I want you to know you did really well. That was, a pretty brutal week. I half expected you to only stay a day or two and then head back. But hey, you managed to stick it out right till the end. I'm really proud of you. Jeez, even I was starting to burn out 5 days in. But, just knowing that we made a difference made it all worthwhile, I guess. But I will tell you this. As soon as I get back, I am going to sleep for a whole week straight. Yeah, we passed the bulk of the work off to the local emergency response. Last I heard, most people would be able to return to work probably this week, maybe next week. And everyone who was displaced had been taken care of. I guess despite the destruction, most people lived inland from the city and had their homes spared. The bulk of the damage was to the city downtown and to the port. Right, then the hospital. I was only helping out there for a day or so. You were helping Loaderman, last I saw. Yeah, you were trying to drain the basement and get the generators up and running, weren't you? I wanted to stay with you, but I got dragged off. Yeah, me and Iron Maiden were doing search and rescue. How'd the hospital go? Good. Loaderman's awesome. Amazing sense of humor, too. Did you, get the water out and, get the generators going? Oh, that's right. Yeah, you weren't there. I forgot you joined back up with us. And then we, went down Ishida Street, and then, yeah, sorry, I'm so tired. I'm forgetting stuff. I think, if I recall, you volunteered to go with Captain Manta on a boat ride through the flooded shipping lanes down by the wharf. How did that go? That bad, eh? Yeah, I expected as much. That close to the ocean and all. Do you think it's at all salvageable? I spoke to one of the hazardous response teams. They said a fair bit of fuel had leaked out of the cargo ship that was thrown down Main Street. They were pumping fuel out as fast as they could, but it'd still take a few weeks, if not months, before they could get the ship cleared out. I knew you saw it from above when we flew in. Did you get a chance to see it up close? It was wild. The wave picked it up from the wharf where it was being loaded with cargo containers and just laid it smack dab in the middle of Main Street. I went through it with Iron Maiden looking for crew. Luckily, there were only a few on board when the wave hit. Shook them up pretty bad, but nobody was killed. We actually found the captain. He was still sitting in his captain's chair, drenched head to toe, hands clasping his seat. He white-knuckled the entire wave, all the way into the city. Didn't budge. His first question was if we knew where his crew was. True captain through and through, I guess. Yeah, like I said, most of his crew had time off, so they were in the city when the wave hit, but I suspect most of them were a little bit higher up, probably partying, if I had to guess. But yeah, we were able to find a lot of other people. Everyone on board was okay, and it's kind of amazing how well the ship survived the ordeal. Now, here's something I heard. I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard you and Bloodhound Girl made some pretty big discoveries. Is it true you rescued the mayor from his roof? Oh, deputy mayor. That's still pretty cool. I met the Prime Minister once. Yeah, he awarded me the Distinguished Hero Award. It was for my efforts in the 2017 super earthquake. Myself, Iron Maiden, Halon Cryon, and Bloodhound Girl all got the award. Do you remember Dr. Butts? Yeah, the seismologist who went evil after people wouldn't stop making fun of his name. He built a doomsday device in his garage and threatened to destroy the city if the government wouldn't pay his ransom. Well, it worked. Significantly better than he thought, I suspect. When some pro heroes tried to apprehend him, he set off the device and triggered a super earthquake localized to a 100-mile radius around him. Decimated the city, killed thousands, including himself. I was just starting out here at SarTech. I had just left Master Effects Agency after the whole Dr. Mayhem incident. I'd only been here for probably about a month, maybe 2. I was training in the city simulator when the call came over the loudspeakers. Category 5 incident. All hands report to the hangar. I guess to put it into perspective, the tsunami we just dealt with was a Category 3. Even though I'd been a pro hero for nearly 5 years at the time, I still remember the pit of fear in my stomach as I boarded the VTOL. The one thing that brought me comfort was seeing all my friends here with me. As we flew, our captain explained more details about the situation, but nothing prepared me for what I saw when we got closer to the city. I remember thinking it looked like someone had dumped out a bin of gray Lego. Abstract shapes strewn about in a large circular crater. As we got closer and closer, it got bigger and bigger. The shapes turned into buildings. Some crumbled into piles, others laid down on their side, but, we were more than an hour away by plane, almost 3 hours since the earthquake happened, and we could still see the dust cloud hanging over the city. When we landed, it was like nothing I'd ever seen. I found myself just staring out over the landscape, trying to wrap my head around what I was seeing. My memory's foggy after that. The first 3 days went by in a blur. I remember leading an entourage of 60, maybe 70 pro heroes from all over the country, just walking down the street and feeling for life. When my quirk felt a heartbeat in the rubble, I would point and a few heroes would break off and start digging. The devastation was so much worse up close. I would work 18 hours and then pass out in the back of one of the vans and then, get like a couple hours of sleep and then start up again. It was 2 weeks of search and rescue and then a month of safety assessments, and then I helped with cleanup for another month before heading back to HQ. Even to this day, I have never worked that hard. It's funny, I was practically begging to go back to Master Effects Agency and do some more combat training. I'm not going to sugarcoat this job. You went above and beyond this last week and impressed not only myself, but the whole squad. Even the director took notice, but I can't tell you it's only going to get easier. This line of work has its slow days, cats in trees, fishing boats lost at sea, and it has its busy days like what you just experienced. It's important to trust your teammates and equipment, but more than that, trust yourself. SarTech has some of the longest, most comprehensive vacation days out of any hero agency, and this is why. While most pro heroes fly in, take out the bad guys, and leave again, us rescue heroes stay until the job's done, or at least until the local rescue has things under control. Now, that could be a day or a week or nearly 3 months in my case. Now, that's not to say you're a prisoner. The well-being of our heroes is paramount here. If you need, you can always take time, but for me at least, if I were to leave, it would feel like I was abandoning my team and all the people I needed to rescue. I was able to push myself far beyond what I was comfortable with because of the brutal training Master Effect had put me through. And that's why I'm so glad you decided to come along with us this time. That being said, I am definitely going to take some time off after we get back. Like I said, SarTech has some of the best vacation packages out of any agency. Oh yeah, resorts, theme parks, spas, cruises, it's all paid leave, of course, and because SarTech is so well liked around the country, the staff, wherever you go, will sometimes give you special treatment. It's funny, a couple of years ago, I took some time off at this gorgeous resort on the beach, all-inclusive, huge rooms overlooking the ocean, incredible nightlife, just perfect. So anyway, I'm eating dinner and the resort manager comes over to thank me personally. I kind of dislike being thanked, but, I thought, hey, they probably do this for every SarTech hero who stays here. As soon as she sees my face, she rushes over and thanks me, tears in her eyes. She says, "You probably don't remember me, but you saved me and my husband's life a couple of years ago when our apartment building collapsed in the mega earthquake." I felt kind of bad. She was right. I didn't remember her. But then again, I was so exhausted I was unable to make complete sentences, let alone remember faces. She told me she had tried to contact SarTech to thank whoever pulled her out of the rubble, but with over 1,000 pro heroes from SarTech agencies all over the country, she never did find me. Until tonight. Needless to say, I was treated very well after that. A little too well. It stopped being pampering and started feeling like she was trying to adopt me after a few days. I met her husband too. She still sends me postcards from time to time. Good folks. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, the special treatment. I can't guarantee it will happen to you. Most people treat rescue heroes with the utmost respect. I think the only people who don't are pro heroes, but that's fine. Some heroes just get full of themselves and don't think about the people who clean up after them. So, how many days do you have left in your UA practicum? That few, eh? Any plans when you get back, aside from schoolwork? Well, if you want to practicum here next year, we'd be glad to have you. Heck, if you want a job after you're done with UA, I am 99% sure you'd be a shoo-in. All the pro heroes like you, plus you've proven yourself reliable and a hard worker. That is, if you want to work here. I know this job wasn't your first choice for a practicum. I know for most hero students, this is the last place they'd want to end up. I know that's how I felt, at least. All I wanted to do was be a hero, take out the bad guy, save the day. I spent every waking moment studying and training. My parents would joke and say that if we wanted to have family dinner, they'd have to go down to the gym. My classmates had far more offensive quirks and stunning natural talent than I did. You know, some had spent their whole lives perfecting their talents and fighting styles. When I first got into UA, I couldn't even control my quirk properly. Yeah, when I was growing up, anytime I was in a car for more than a couple hours, I would start building up kinetic charge without being able to control it. My dad would have to pull over every few hours and let me release my energy into a tree or whatever, which sounds funnier than it actually was. Usually just dumping energy into a rock or whatever I could find. Back then I could only store maybe 50,000 joules before it started to come back up whether I wanted to or not. During my time at UA, the teachers and heroes really showed me how to control my quirk. It's kind of funny. This one time we were in the woods doing some seriously intense training to expand our quirk's capabilities. And one of the things I was doing was storing my energy for long periods. So all day I would hold up a boulder and just build charge off the boulder being held in the air, and then it's a bit hard to explain what it feels like being overcharged. Kind of like having to sneeze, except it's not a sneeze, it's like 250,000 joules of energy. Anyway, we went to bed in our tents, and I was specifically told not to go to bed charged, but I was cocky and wanted to prove I had control over my quirk. Anyway, as soon as I fell asleep, I detonated my tent like a bomb. Yeah, cut the tent into ribbons, stuck poles into trees, made a crater underneath me about 1/2 meter deep. Made a boom so loud my old teacher, who was a veteran, by the way, exploded out of his tent full combat mode and started setting fire to things, expecting to find people hiding in them. Yeah, they were pissed. Not only did I have to pay for the tent, I spent the next 2 days sleeping on the ground. My classmates called me bedtime bomber for the next few months, but aside from the humiliation, UA was a very productive time for me. I think I mentioned when you first started here, I placed second in the sports festival. Would have been first too if Puppet Master couldn't literally instantly hypnotize you from across the arena. I'm still a little salty about that, to be honest. It's gotta be cheating. Well, whatever. UA is where I develop my special move as well. You know, I can feel any motion, even a heartbeat within 30 meters of myself. Special moves don't always have to be earth-shattering attacks. With my special move, I have complete situational awareness of my surroundings, even when in combat. Anything larger than a ladybug I can feel. During the sports festival, I was fighting Larissa. I think she goes by Mystic nowadays. She could teleport short distances and just a crazy good martial artist. When we were fighting, I realized she was not actually teleporting, just moving extremely fast between points. As soon as I figured this out, I could predict where she was going to strike, absorb the energy, and then take her out with one solid hit. All I ever wanted to be was a badass hero, clobbering bad guys and saving the day. I guess I did it. Professional hero at a prestigious agency. I guess it took me nearly 6 years to realize that there are thousands of heroes who can catch the bad guy, but what I have can save people's lives. And if I have to hang up my crime-fighting cape and help people, well, it was an easy choice. For me, at least. You need to follow your heart. Like I said at the beginning, you'll make one hell of a hero no matter what you choose. What made me leave Master Effects Agency and start here at SarTech? It's not a story I like to tell, to be honest, but I guess I owe you an explanation. I told you before about the Dr. Mayhem incident. It was in my hometown. Just about 10 years ago now. I was working at Master Effects Agency, and we got the call. A building-sized mech suit, piloted by a crazed scientist. Dr. Dallas Mitchells, a shockingly smart and powerful hero. He had the ability to manipulate anything electronic he touched. He could hack any computer, build microprocessors out of tin cans, even control electricity to some extent. Nobody's sure what happened, but from how the entire incident was covered up, it was more than likely the government's doing. Dr. Mitchells hacked a military base and triggered a false alarm, a radiation leak. Once everyone evacuated, he went to work twisting and shaping all the technology into his greatest creation. 24 stories tall, armed to the teeth with every weapon you could imagine, and plated with a special armor specifically made to counter quirks. He walked the suit out of the compound and directly towards the nearest city, which just happened to be mine. First thing he did was trigger a massive EMP that fried all electronics. Cars, elevators, even the lights went out. With no way to call for help, he went about destroying the city, firing missiles indiscriminately into buildings, picking up vehicles and hurling them. The suit was so large, just walking around was enough to decimate the roads. Myself and the other heroes at Master Effects Agency were first on the scene. But there was nothing we could do. Bird Queen dropped Iron Maiden onto the shoulder, but his armor was non-ferrous, so she couldn't control it. And even if she could, the most she could move at one time was like 20 cubic meters. That was less than 2 of its fingers. The only hero who could do anything directly was me. Kinetic energy is universal, after all. While all my friends went to look for a hatch to get inside, I stood directly in its path and tried to slow it down. Every step it took was well over 5 million joules of energy. The most I've ever been able to hold was 3 million, and only for like a second. I would charge off his leg, and then fire a car or fire hydrant or whatever I could find at him. Nothing worked. I didn't even think he noticed me trying. 6 hours I spent trying to stop him or even slow him down as he destroyed the city I grew up in. By the end, I was burnt out. I had no energy left. I had been using my quirk at 2, even 300% of its safe levels. I had internal bleeding, hairline fractures in 60% of my bones, and even my cells were beginning to break down. Just before I passed out, I looked up to see All Might punch the mech in the head, just tearing it off, sending it flying a few kilometers out of the city. When the suit fell dead, it landed directly onto a residential street, crushing dozens of homes. The shockwave from the punch was so powerful it broke every window in downtown and sent crushed cars flying end over end. The last thing I remember was a car flying towards me, and I raised my hand to stop it. And, I didn't. The next thing I remember was someone holding my hand and telling me it was going to be okay. Some big hero had lifted the car off me, and I was slowly being moved onto a stretcher. The hero's name tag said SarTech on it. The city was far too damaged to drive, so the heroes were carrying me back to the field hospital they had set up. They told me it had been 23 hours since All Might stopped the suit. As we traveled, my quirk slowly returned, and I felt a faint heartbeat in a particularly crushed car. I told them to stop, and after some convincing, the big guy began to peel back the twisted metal to find a woman inside, barely alive, but not unsavable. As we made our way back, I was able to point out 21 more survivors. People who were unable to evacuate themselves. As soon as I was in the hospital, all I wanted to do was go back out and help find more people, but since I was essentially moments away from death at this point, my requests were ignored, and probably for the best. 27 surgeries, 8 units of blood, a full body cast, not to mention several specialist medical heroes to stop my cells from degrading further. I was in traction for over a month. Intensive care for 67 days, and then over a year and a half of physical therapy before I was back to fighting form. In all that time, the only thing I could think about was while I was being carried and feeling the people trapped. I'm not sure if that was my true purpose calling or just a vivid memory, but it stuck with me. My colleagues fared far better than I did. They couldn't find a hatch to the mech suit since it was basically built around the doctor. They tried to find me after everything was over, but with the rubble, they expected the worst. I gave my resignation when Master Effect came to visit me while I was in the hospital. I had to explain to him that it wasn't his fault for pushing me too hard or anything like that. I just felt that I could be a hero to help people elsewhere. My colleagues were pretty broken up about me leaving, but I had made up my mind. As soon as I could stand up on my own, I applied at SarTech. I failed the entrance exam a couple of times, mostly because I was still healing, but eventually I did get in. Iron Maiden, my old partner, she joined the year after that. She said it was because of job stress and better pay, but I like to think she just missed me. So, there you go, my origin story. Just remember, whatever you choose, just know I believe in you. You have the capability to make the best choices for yourself, and it's so important to remember, whatever you choose, it's not permanent. You have plenty of time to find your purpose, and I know whatever you choose, you will be great at it. Anyway, I'm going to try to get a few hours of sleep before I have to get back to HQ and then start doing all of the paperwork. Hopefully we can get a few days of peace before you have to go back to school. You deserve a day to sleep in. Although, I did hear Bloodhound Girl is holding a class on desert rescue this weekend. I'm just kidding.